Testing 1, 2, 3. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? Welcome. I say hello to everybody. Let's see if I can get some people on here. I know everybody's busy, but hey. Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome, everybody. How's everybody doing? What's everybody drinking? Let's see. Hello. See who is joining me today. Who's out there? Hello, everybody. I'm gonna speak in my greatest. Hello. All right, testing out some new gadgets, new gizmos. I got a new light dealio and so a new mic. So if anybody out there can hear me clearly, hopefully it sounds good. Just give me a thumbs up. I just want to make sure we're good to go. Good test run here. Hello. All right, so welcome everyone. Welcome to Breaking Bread with Lorie Valley, also known as Breaking Bread with Corey here on Instagram, Breaking Bread with Lorie Valley on Spotify. That's the audio version of this. Welcome everyone to another great show. We just finished one up just about a half hour ago with an amazing wine educator, communicator, ambassador to the industry, Miss Susan Fredson Cole of Admire Vine. What a fun interview. And I'm so grateful to connect with all these super women. It is an amazing thing. And this is something that we're going to be celebrating throughout the entire month of March, but not just the entire month of March, but also we are going to be celebrating it every day. That's what we do here on Breaking Bread, because we celebrate it all. And this is what everyone should be doing. We are a community. We are a support system for each other. And I'm so excited to have this amazing guest that's coming on and sharing the screen with me, Megan Bell. I discovered Megan and I was blown away just at some of the pics I got to see on her page and what she does and how innovative and how passionate she is. I got to share some of her wine during the last few days, her Chenin Blanc, which I'm drinking here tonight. It's 100% skin fermented Chenin Blanc. And I'm so excited to share the screen with her. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her on. Let's see. Let's see if we get this connection. Cheers to you, Dallas Wine Chick. This is for you too. Hello.
I'm upside down. Hi. Oh God.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
You got audio? Is your audio there? Let me see. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Let me see. You can hear me?
Yes. Ooh, now I can't hear you. You're now muted to me. Weird. I'll try this again.
There we go. Hey. Oh, I lost you. I could hear you both. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and invite her back. I'm going to go ahead and bring her back. Let's see. Now I only hear Megan. Can you see Megan? There's Megan.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Great.
That was just me. That's me and my dad brain and all the funny things that I do. Welcome, Megan. How you doing?
Good. Just trying to figure out the right setup over here. Almost done.
Oh, you're good. You're good. Don't forget, everyone, if you're just joining us, you could go ahead and leave a question for Megan or I in that little bubble with a little question mark. Go ahead and be more than happy to answer any questions that you have, especially all the technical questions for Megan in her winemaking. So I'm buckling up because I'm gonna learn a lot today. I am gonna learn a lot. I'm so excited.
Yes. I'm excited too. Almost ready. Still setting up.
You're good.
Okay, that should work. There we go.
Right.
Oh, no.
Move it up a little bit more, like to give you a little bit more headspace.
This is the best I can do.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's good.
Sorry. Okay.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are joined with the Megan Bell. She's just setting up her camera, getting it all dialed in.
Okay.
Megan, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your time and sharing your story with us today. I'm so excited. Since the first time that we talked to getting your wines in the mail, I was like jumping up for joy. I wish I would have been able to record a dance, but like I said, I'm a dad and I don't get too technical. The only thing I do technical is doing the robot a little bit, but that's about it.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay, good. All right, we are set up over here officially.
All right. All right. So welcome again. Welcome to Breaking Bread. This is all about sharing your story, just talking wine, talking love, talking about life. Go ahead and just introduce yourself to the viewer. Let them know who you are.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Megan Bell with Margins Wine. I'm based in Santa Cruz Mountains or Santa Cruz County, California. I own a small winery in this area, and I am one of very few women in the Santa Cruz Mountains to own a winery and to even work in wine production in this area in general. So that is the very brief intro for me, and I'm sure we'll get into things as we go.
Tell us about Margin Wines. Tell us about your wines and tell us about the mean. I was looking at your profile and I'm like, she is me. She is me. The Lorie Valley, Vouvray. When you sent the Chenin Blanc to me, I was like, now we're talking. Now we're talking. Tell us about your Chenin Blanc. Tell us about your wines.
Can you turn the fan on low? Thanks. So the first wine that I made for Margins when I started it in 2016 was that Chenin Blanc from Clarksburg. Actually, in 2016, it was the only wine that I made. I started really small, just with 200 cases of that Chenin Blanc. And actually, the first year, I technically made 2 wines, but they were both Clarksburg Chenin. Most of it was Clarksburg Chenin with 20 parts per million of sulfur, and then I did 40 cases of the same exact wine with no sulfur added whatsoever. So
Wow.
that was a really early on experiment in my company where I was trying to figure out if I wanted to make wine that didn't have sulfites in it, or if I wanted to be like official natural wine, or be more of a low intervention winemaker. Still do everything that natural wine does, except add those little bit of sulfites.
Wow, it's such an incredible wine. The aromatics to it, just popping it open and the vibrancy, the flavors that I get out of it, I just dig it. It just when you talk Shannon Blanc, I was thinking that this is Vouvray. This is what I would think of like that traditional Shannon Blanc tastes like.
Yeah,
It's just rooty. I love it.
I can't remember which wines I sent you, but the one you're holding up is the skin fermented version.
Right.
So that I started making the next year in 2017. So I make two Shannons from that exact same vineyard block in Clarksburg, which is near Sacramento on the Sacramento River. I do partially, well, about half of the fruit I get from there is just direct to press, normal whole cluster press white wine, and then the other half is what you're drinking, which is skin fermented, destemmed, and on its skins for almost a month, depending on the year. And 2020, which you're drinking, was 25 days.
So what is the main difference between skin fermented? What makes it so unique? What brings out its character?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it really depends on what white grape you're working with. In terms of Chenin Blanc, I've found that you don't get a lot of extra like color or body from it being on skins and skin fermented, where the way that you might with like Pinot Gris or a different white grape that imparts a lot more color and body, and there's just like no mistaking it being skin fermented. I feel
Right.
like that Chenin Blanc, if it didn't say skin fermented on it, someone might smell it and be like, oh, I feel like this might have a little bit of skin contact mixed in, but I don't think
Right.
anyone thinks like, oh, this is a 25-day skin contact wine.
Right.
And I think it's just because Chenin, at least from Clarksburg, doesn't impart color whatsoever.
Right.
That wine is not orange at all, even though it's orange wine. It looks white, and it doesn't have like a lot of that oxidation that people think of with skin fermented whites, and that's very purposeful. I've talked about this a lot. For me, I'm trying to do like a really subtle skin fermentation. Like I'm doing the skin ferment all the way, but I don't want someone to smell it and be like, oh, this is skin fermented. And that's just my own preference, because I'm trying to make wines that I like to drink. And I like
Right.
fermented whites, but I prefer it when it's a little more subtle.
Right. And what as far as the area, what helps make that Chenin Blanc or any of the grapes that you grow in your vineyards? What makes it so unique?
I mean, I think it's every single vineyard is different, and
Mm.
we're really in a moment of terroir driven wines in the US,
Right.
especially in California right now, because we've had success with commercial wine in this country, just longer and more time for people to catch on and plant new varietals, unique varietals in different areas, in different like microclimates and soil, special soil areas, etc. And I feel like it's so much marketing lately when people are like, oh, this is terroir, this vineyard special, but it's true. Like every
Right.
single place is different, and every single place is going to produce a different wine that has different characteristics, aromatic and taste-wise, just based on the climate, the humidity, the soil, the microbes, the nutrients, the minerals. All of those things go into it. So,
Right. And
um,
what kind of soil is coming out of Clarksburg?
Clarksburg is alluvial soils. It's So Clarksburg, all the vineyards are islands. So it's an
Mhm.
area that would be underwater if not for all the levees in that area.
Wow.
So when you're driving around Clarksburg, you're just driving on levees. And so all that area was under water at one time, and it's where all the silt has washed down toward the delta from the Sierra, over millennia.
Mm.
And that's why those soils are so rich, and you can grow great row crops in that area, which is what it's historically been used for in the Central Valley. But then at a certain point, people realize like, oh, we can get a lot more money for grapes. So.
Yeah. So what drove you to that particular area to start your winemaking process?
So when I first got started in 2016, early 2016, when I was looking for what grapes I was going to use, I was looking for Chenin Blanc because I had worked in France in 2014 and I worked in the Loire and I loved Chenin. Um, I had never had Chenin before working in the Loire, and I'll talk about this also in a bit, but I've never worked in wine sales. I am not particularly interested in wine regions. I don't know how to say a lot of the regions. It's just I'm more of a production
Yeah.
person. Um,
Love that.
so when I went there, it wasn't because I had like great wines from the Loire and I'd always dreamed of it. It was more like a friend from college had worked there and he was like, yeah, I think I can get you a job here, working for free, obviously. But I was just
Right.
stoked to have the experience to work in France.
Right.
So yeah, I went
How?
and I would have gone anywhere, not just the Loire. So when I was first looking for those grapes in 2016, I was looking for Chenin for that reason. Um, but I was flexible because I knew that I couldn't necessarily get what I wanted. Because no one knew who I was, and because I don't have any. Well, maybe I do now, better now, but at the time, I didn't have anyone vouching for me. I
Right.
hadn't worked for somebody famous who was like going to take me under their wing and introduce me to all of their professional connections and stuff. And that is how this industry works, I think, which is very detrimental to new talent coming up because only
Right.
certain people get a leg in because they're brought in from other people. And often the
Right.
people that they bring in don't have a lot of the more kind of wild west characteristics that
Yeah.
that other folks have, that original ideas and not super influenced by anyone because they haven't had an opportunity to be, so they're just totally doing their own thing, which
Right.
brings new blood and ideas into this market, and a lot of
Right.
people never get a chance. And I think I was just really lucky that I was willing to keep working until I made my own chance. And a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do that, usually because they have financial demands in some other area.
Right. Well, good for you to keep on plugging through and to make something that is so beautiful. It's just and it's a shame that you have things that happen like that in any type of industry. We should be embracing the new winemakers, especially women winemakers on the forefront. We need to do more of that. We need to celebrate more of that.
Yeah.
And tell me about how was it working in France, especially in the Loire Valley. This was Vouvray. Chenin Blanc was one of the first French wines that I discovered because I started Old World,
Hmm.
and it just blew me away. So, what was it like when you were working there? Is it as romantic as it is? Is it as hallmark as it is?
um, in some ways, yeah. Like I didn't have the romance factor, like I said, because I didn't really know where I was. I didn't know what the Loire was. It didn't mean anything to me.
Right.
When I got there. And honestly, so the domain I worked for had some of their own vineyards, but then they farmed vineyards all over the Loire. So a lot of times we were driving, an hour and a half to go harvest a vineyard in some other appellation. I was based in Anjou. and we would go,
Okay.
all around. And I don't even know where I was. I didn't know where I was harvesting a lot of the time. I should say I don't speak any French, and I was in a very French area. There was 2 or 3 people that spoke English out of like 25, and they were from Canada, from Montreal, and their English was rocky. So I just listened basically the whole time I was there, and did a lot of thinking, and
Right.
yeah, just tried to enjoy everything that I was doing totally objectively. So with that kind of background, yes, it did feel romantic. Everyone
Right.
on the vineyard crew is like smoking a hand-rolled cigarette while they're picking, and
Ah,
you stop,
yeah.
for
Love it.
you stop for like early lunch at 10 and have a cigarette and some coffee and some pastries and maybe some cheese, and then
Nice.
you keep working for a couple hours, and then you have your second lunch, which is from 11 to 1, and like that's really nice, and then you have time to
Yeah, it
take a
is.
nap if you want to, and then
Oh
you
man.
like might go out and keep working, or you might just be done for the day. And it really did feel like that. The work
Right.
was so much more integrated into life there, which is what I loved about it. And that's when I got the idea for margins, and was just like, can I emulate this type of working style in California
Right.
or Oregon?
Right.
I wasn't sure yet where I was going to be based when I go back to the US, because
Mm.
most of my other experiences working in wineries were like, it was so fast paced and like, go, 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 let's finish this, let's be done, let's get
Right.
home. And I never really wanted to get home most of that time. Like I was alone traveling
Mm.
the world, or living by myself in other cities and states where I didn't have a lot of friends. There was nothing I was trying to get home for. And I was much more like, why don't we just, like, we have to be at work anyway.
Right.
Like, why don't we just enjoy the time that we have here? And
Right.
might save like 5 or 10 minutes rushing, but like, why rush? Let's just be here, and
Right.
we'll work until we don't feel like working anymore, and then we'll be done for the day, which is how I do things in the vineyard now with margins. It's not really something you get to do at harvest when you work by yourself for the most part.
Right.
Things need to be done on a schedule
Yeah.
especially when it's just you. But in the vineyard, I really try, and this is what I learned really, my main takeaway from the Loire, I try to not be there unless I'm enjoying being there. And
Right.
I think that's a really nice romantic idea that can
Absolutely.
be incorporated into actual life here.
Yeah, absolutely. That is totally cool. How many people are on your crew at home?
Just me.
Just you? You're the one and only.
Yeah, I have friends who come help sporadically, definitely.
Right.
Like I am so appreciative for those folks. Like some of them might be watching. Um, there's like 1 or 2 people that help over and over again that have
Wow.
jobs that just love helping. But
Right.
for the most part, especially like harvesting a vineyard in like 95-degree Fahrenheit weather, usually no one comes back. They do it and like I got that experience, and now I can check that off my
Right.
list, and then so I just keep getting more people every year. But it's really,
Wow. That is so inspiring. So you do it all. You do
yeah.
it all from
I'm gonna hire my first intern this harvest
wow. This
for
that's incredible.
for
And
6 weeks.
and as far as was there any inspiration besides the Loire Valley? Was there an area in France that just you were like, I want to try to take that culture and bring that to the States, whether it's California or Oregon, besides the Loire Valley?
Um, no, I wouldn't say so, and I would say most of my inspiration comes from just other jobs that I worked in California that aren't wine industry related. Like prior
Right.
to doing wine, I worked as an outdoor educator with kids, and I really liked the way that all of my jobs were run when I worked in that field. There was a lot more communication and um, room for improvement between the employees and the management. They were always
Right.
asking, the powerful people in the management were always powerful, asking like, what could we do better, and having us fill out
Right.
surveys and everything. And it really did make it better for everybody. And that's really, really lacking in the wine industry. And a big part of my inspiration comes from wanting to bring that type of culture over to wine, because it is just horrendous in that regard, which I'm sure that anyone who's worked in wine production would agree with.
Yeah. So now that you have your vineyards, how like is it hard to get it distributed? Like, what do you do for that? Because you're by yourself. You do it all by yourself. So how do you get it distributed? How do you get it out there?
In terms of like selling the wine,
Yeah.
yeah, it hasn't been hard yet because I've been so small. I feel like there's always new challenges as your company is growing, and I'm heading into year 6 right now. And now that I'm a little bigger, I actually doubled my production in 2020 because I got to move into my own shared winery. So I was able to grow without having to pay a bunch of extra money for custom crush fees.
Right.
Now I'm making more than I ever have, and I'm having to set up a bunch of new distribution markets and everything in order to
Right.
get that wine out there, which is something I've been working up to for years. And I'm really excited that I actually have the product to fill those demands now. But
That's awesome.
I don't know like when that stops, because I've never been big enough to have wine that I had to sell yet. It was always
Wow.
like, do you have wine to sell? And me being like, no, check back in a couple years when I'm bigger.
Right.
This will be the first year where I actually held back some wine to try to sell myself throughout the whole
Wow.
year from my website. And then now that I have my own winery space, we can have private tastings there. So I'll try to have people come by and sell that way. But it's all
Yeah.
an experiment, especially when you're just one person and you're trying to fill
Right.
all of these roles. It's not like I have a DTC marketing team behind me getting people to
Right.
sign up for tastings.
Well, I definitely appreciate your vision and your style and just tasting the Chenin Blanc. Now, you also sent me, I don't know if I could even say it right. This is a 2020, is it
Counoise. It rhymes with
Counoise?
coon
Counoise.
pops, like a
Yeah.
raccoon.
Yeah. And it comes from it's a really dark skinned grape, right? From the Rhone area, correct? Is that what I'm
It's
understand?
actually a really light-skinned grape.
Or light skinned grape.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So those wines are, the clusters are absolutely massive. They're
Hmm.
like, oh, I can't do adequate justice to them on this type of. They are huge. They look like table grapes, which are like 4 times the size of or more of a wine grape cluster. They're giant. And a lot of times when you get really big clusters with really big berries like that, you don't get very good color because the proportion to skin to juice is off. And that's the same thing in the Counoise. And that's not a problem for me, luckily, because I don't care if there's like good color. That doesn't mean anything to me. And
Right.
if anything, can you tell them? If anything, I would prefer a light red because
Right.
it's juicy and it can be, people are so into chillable reds right now, myself included, and
Right.
it's just like a great candidate for throwing in the fridge and, chuggable red.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely versatile, and one of those approachable style wines that you could have. You think of French style meals, you're sitting out and what you call like the veranda, having your baguette and your cheese. I always see. I'm a romantic, and I always thought like I always planned. I learned, believe it or not, I learned some of the wine regions from watching the Tour de France. That's why you see these bicycles and back.
Oh, wow.
I'm a big cycling fan, and I used to sit there and watch the tour. And this is even before I got really into wine, and I was just like, these areas, one of the greatest sports spectacles that you can watch on TV, because you're seeing areas of just they're historical. They're historical areas and beautiful areas. But to see the different regions and everything, and I just think, oh man, I'm gonna ride through these vineyards one of these days, and I'm gonna live on my bike and eat cheese and might have my baguette all day. I don't know if I'll be able to pedal, but hey, I'm gonna be doing it, and that's how I got my name, La Belle Voyage, meaning the traveling bicycle, because I was like, I love French wines. That's how I discovered wine, and the bike and mead. It's like before I got married, I was basically married to my bike, and so it's just one of those things. But now that the wine thing is taking over my journey itself, it's just like I love hearing about tradition and the soul of things and the root and where people have gotten their experience, just like you're talking about Loire Valley and how you're talking about the breaks and lunches and things like that. That's what I dig. That's the one thing I dig about wine. I'm sure you have an appreciation for that too, right?
I mean, I loved that, but I'm sad to say that I'm much more of a focus on efficiency. Like I'm not into taking breaks. I'm into leaving when I feel done, definitely.
Right,
But I'm more
right.
like, let's just do this and not take breaks. Mostly because I enjoy what I'm doing most of the time. So I don't
Yeah,
feel this need to be like, oh, I'm living for this 10 minutes where I get to look at my phone. Like, I don't want to look at my phone. I just
right.
keep doing it, and then let's leave when we feel like it, when we're done. Like maybe we don't finish everything we thought we did today,
Right.
but at, at least we did something. But
I
yeah,
love that.
I think that maybe I would have gotten more out of all those beautiful French lunches and breakfasts, and there was just so many, and I've been here before. It was only like 5 weeks, and like even now it's 6 or 7 years later, and I can remember all the places that we went to, and um, they were beautiful, but like I can't stress enough that like I didn't know what was going on because I don't speak French. So I was just like brought to these places, and
Right.
like once I was done gorging on the delicious food, it was really just waiting around for everyone to be done talking, which could be hours,
And so now that you're doing a little bit more production, where would you like to see your wines go?
Yeah, I think I'm just getting into my groove now, and I actually can dream about where I'd like to see the wines go for the first time ever because I have this new slash old winery space.
Right.
James of Flores Wine and I share a winery in Corralitos in southern Santa Cruz County as of August. But before that, I was in shared spaces that were really great for incubators for ideas and everything, but really not great for growth because they're small.
Right.
Everyone's trying to use the same equipment. The more you want to grow, the more financial price you pay, and there's really no motivation there, and there's not a lot of room to dream about original ideas and experiments you might want to come up with because you're in a shared space. Like there's not space for you to experiment. And
Right.
last year during harvest, we had just moved into the winery right before we started bringing in grapes. So, and that had to do with the timing of our permitting. So last year there was no time to dream either. Like we moved in and then we just worked. So this year will really be the first year where I'll have a second to sit back and be like, what do I want to see from this harvest? And having an intern working with me for the first time ever will be really helpful for that too, because
Yeah.
I won't be being pulled in 1,000 different directions. I'll be able to like kind of hone in on a vision for the
Right.
first time ever. But I would say I'm always trying to make more unique varietals from more regions that people haven't heard of. It's a little annoying to have a bunch of tiny lots like this. It's hard for sales, you know, they can't go around the whole country if there's only 50 cases, and
Right.
people are like, why don't you just make 200 cases of less wines? But that's not the point of this brand. The point was always to highlight lesser known vineyards, regions, and varietals from organic
Right.
producers or producers who, or growers who are trying to convert to organics, often just trying to do it because I have asked them to, not necessarily of their own accord, but they jump on board with this vision also. And I'm still bringing on new vineyards even in 2021.
That's awesome. Can you tell us some of the unique varietals that you're producing or your goal is to produce?
Yeah. So something I'm excited about this year, there's an old farming family in San Benito County, which is it's south of San Jose, kind of between Monterey and Santa Cruz counties. And they have all of these wonderful Italian varietals, like 20 different ones that lots of people haven't heard of. And I think a lot of people in our little winemaking community in this part of California are working with grapes from that vineyard. It's called Soleto. But I'm going, and I worked with some of their grapes last year, but I'm going to be bringing on up like 4 or 5 new different grapes this year. And
Awesome.
in small quantities, but
Right.
yeah, it's just exciting. And like I learned too, like I don't, I feel like I go backwards in some ways where some people are like, okay, I've had these varietals forever, like tasting all these different wines from Italy. Now I'm going to try to make them. I know what I want. Where I'm like, cool, I've never had this before and I've never even tried it from Italy and I'm going to make it. After I make it once, let's see
Right.
how it goes. And maybe after that, I'll like try some from Italy and see how they compare and be like, all right, which direction do I want to go in?
That's great though. That's great because that's continuing the expansion, even just going back. You know, you might think you're going backwards, but I think sometimes you got to be reminded
Yeah.
of the route. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's great that you're really pushing for that and showcasing a lot of more uniqueness. And how many is there an average of cases that you're producing per varietal, or is it, vary?
It really depends. Like I can say that my focus is definitely Clarksburg Chenin Blanc. Like I think I
Right.
made, I can't even remember, something like 10 or 12 tons of Clarksburg Chenin in 2020, and I did 30 tons total. So it was a big percentage compared to the 12 different varietals that I worked with,
Right.
making up just a little slice of the pie of the rest of that, and then just a
Yeah.
chunk of Shannon.
And
But
as far as like, I know you want to bring out the unique varietals, but what is the unique process that you're doing that's different? You know, especially being small, that you're bringing to the industry on the forefront.
it's funny because I was actually thinking about this today while I was driving, like, because some, people are like, what's your eventual goal? And I think, I don't know if this is my goal, but one of the possibilities of a small brand like this is that you get bought by a larger brand. And that's probably your best definition of financial success, at least.
Right.
And I was like, well, if I wasn't involved in margins anymore, could margins still be made?
Right.
and
Right.
and the answer I came up with is no, although I might regret
Right.
saying this later, but hopefully it'll be long buried on the internet by then. And the reason is because so much of how we make wine is logistical, and it has to do with the equipment that we have available. And that equipment that we have available determines how the wine ends up tasting ultimately in the long run. So
Right.
using the exact tiny fermentation tanks that I have, which I just have because they work for me because I'm so small, isn't going to
Yeah.
be the same as fermenting in like a giant stainless steel
Giant thing.
tank,
Right.
which would be
Right.
better for me if I had one, and way more efficient, but like I can't afford that. So I'm never going to
Right.
have that. And the
Right.
brand will, be financially successful, and it progressively will be able to afford more equipment, but we're not ever going to be buying huge stainless steel tanks for
Yeah.
fermentation. It's just not a reality,
Right.
you know, like each one of those is like $15,000. So that money
Yeah.
could be spent elsewhere, I think, more effectively.
Right. No, that's important, I think, because it's all about the soul of what you're doing, you know. And
Mhm.
like you said, if you sold margins, would it still be the way it is? And it probably wouldn't. More than likely, it wouldn't be master. It wouldn't be the same thing, you know.
Yeah. And
And
not because of me, though. I just want to reiterate, like, it's not because like I do a punch down a certain way that someone else can't. It's the same. It's just like this, yeah, this equipment that we have is really specific for what
right,
it does to the grapes in
right.
beginning of their fermentation process.
But yeah, but I always think though it's like we're like fingerprints. The way you would do something, even if you were to allow somebody else to do it, even on the same equipment, I think it would still be different because it wouldn't have your touch. You know what I mean? And I think
Maybe
that's the, huh?
I know what you mean, and I feel like I hear people say this, but this is something that kind of irks me from jobs that I've had where someone else is credited as the winemaker, and I did all of the work. And,
Right,
you know, for all of my beginning jobs, and they're like, oh, it's, and, you know, in articles and press and everything, and when they give interviews,
right,
the same thing, like, oh, it's your special touch. They're like, yep. And in my head, I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I did it. So there's
right.
no way that it was your special touch. So I want to carry that lesson, you know, that I learned when I
Right,
was working for other people, and
right,
remember that when I grow, like if I have someone else making all my wine, even if it's next year or the year after, they're the winemaker, I become the director of winemaking. And I think it's
right.
really a shame that we California winemakers have this obsession with being called winemakers when they rise out of that role. Like, I think it should be an honor to be able to call yourself the director of winemaking. Like, I've been in this so long, I've established something wonderful. I've brought all these people in under my wing and trained them, and now they're perfectly capable of doing what I once was. And I no longer have to, you know, keep that title because that's not actually what I do anymore.
Right, right.
Yeah. For
I
now,
hear you on that.
definitely I'm the winemaker. But you know, even even this year, I'm 30, and this is the first year where I'm like, oh my God, my body hurts so bad. Like this is a young person's game. Like I don't know how many more years I can even make wine, and I'm not, you know, not even an old person, but it really is so physically demanding. And every time I see like some sort of interview with like a 50-year-old, usually male, sorry, being like, yes, I'm the winemaker. I'm like, there's no way that your body was capable of what it takes to.
I love that. That's classic. That is classic. I love that. I love that. So as we are starting to wind things down, you know, again, I can't thank you enough for just, I know how busy you are. Um, and I appreciate what you do and just sharing your time with us, the viewer and me. Um, it's I love it, and it's important that we talk about winemaking like this and just the wines that you produce. These should all be heard of, you know. And
Yeah.
this is my thing, you know. And um, you know, as many years as I spent in retail and seeing how many wines I've seen, and it's like it's so nice and refreshing and exciting to see this new expansion that's happening, and everybody's really supporting one another, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, as far as I'm going to give you one more good question, and um, as we're celebrating, you know, Women's History Month, and I hopefully we won't just be celebrating with everybody. We won't be just celebrating Women's History Month for the month of March, but we would be celebrating Women's History Month every day. What do you want? What would you like to see, especially for women in winemaking or just the wine industry in general?
Um, Yeah, for women in winemaking, I would just like to see more women staying in wine production. So many women study wine chemistry and think they're going to go into production, and then they leave because they're mistreated in their early jobs, and no one wants to be working a job where they're miserable all the time. So they
Right.
move to wine sales, or they move to the wine lab, which I can say from working in the lab in wine is a lot more enjoyable than being in the production side, because you don't have people hounding you all the time, and only you, because you're not a dude. So I would like to see just like, I don't know, more respect toward everyone on the team, like everyone treated equally, and then maybe
Mhm.
women will start staying. And I know that the only way to do that is to be one of the people that's starting to respect those women that are working for me in their early jobs.
Right.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get to employ people for the first time and to be part of that change that I'm talking about. Um, because people are always like, someone interviewed me, a local person in Santa Cruz recently, like, why why aren't there, like, what will it take to get more women in wine production in Santa Cruz? And I was like, hire them.
Right.
It's so simple. Like, there's nothing
Yeah.
you need to do. You just need, that's who you need to hire. And then you're going to see things change.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. And where can we find your wines?
So the spring release for margins just went nationwide this week. So the list of states that I distribute to is on my website in the find section. And then if you're a California person, spots that are most likely to find margins at physically are on the website in the find section also. And then I also have my website web store. And if you buy there, I will ship it to you.
Awesome. Awesome. That is
So,
great to know. Remember, you got to follow Megan, and I know how busy she is. She may not respond right away. For as many jobs and hats you wear, you just blow me away. I think of just myself being a dad, and I don't really. I always say until I saw my wife go through labor, men cannot say a dang thing. That's tough. But what you're doing is incredible. Keep on doing what you're doing because you inspired me, but I'm sure you're inspiring many, many out there that are watching out there. And please follow Megan and Margin Wines. Get her wines. They're outstanding,
thank you.
unique, beautiful, Rudy, and I can't say enough. Once again, thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing your story.
Yeah, and thank you for all the good questions, and thanks to everyone for tuning in. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much, Megan. Cheers to you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Hey.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining an amazing show with Megan Bell from Margin Wines. Hopefully, all of you will get inspired. And don't forget, follow her at Margin Wines on Instagram. And you can find all the information on her website where you can purchase her wine. Remember, these are the people, these are the institutions that you want to help support, the small winery. She does it all. She's one person. Remember that, one person doing a huge job that it takes a lot of wineries to have many, and she's doing it all by herself. And I definitely applaud her and what she does, and I'm inspired, and it's inspired to all of you. And so keep on watching, keep on following, buy her wines. Don't forget, buy her wines at Margin Wines. And thank you so much for your support. Thank you for joining me. Stay tuned. We have more just inspiring women throughout the month of March. Continuing on. And remember, here at Breaking Bread, it's Women's Day every day. Okay? So keep on joining us. Follow us. Hopefully, they will inspire you to get out and move Do your thing, and remember, stay safe, stay masked up, stay healthy, and cheers to all of you. Woo!